Zimbabwean voters go to the polls tomorrow to elect new leaders from the president down. As in previous elections, there have been reports of intimidation of opposition parties who have been campaigning. We're now joined by Dr Webster Zambara, Senior Project Leader in the Peace Building Interventions Program at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation in Harare. Dr Zambara, appreciate your time this afternoon. You obviously have your feet firmly on the ground in Zimbabwe. Talk to us about the situation at the moment ahead of tomorrow's watershed election.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to your viewers on Newzroom Afrika. I would say today is a day where I would call it calm before the storm. Electioneering ended yesterday, so the political parties, the candidates have done it best, and also the electorates, they are now ready for it. And if we have to talk about the game of numbers, I think the numbers that we have been seeing attending the rallies have been very impressive, and we hope that those numbers would be transferred into voting so that the election day will actually top its billing. One thing that is quite interesting is that the confidence of both leading candidates, particularly President Mnangagwa and his challenger Nelson Chamisa, they are so confident, and that may actually give some marks to the electoral body, the electoral management body, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, that if candidates are so confident that they are going to win, it means they are seeing that the chances are there. However, we would know that there have been some complaints leading to this election day, and the courts have been at the center. Right from the delimitation exercise, the courts were involved. We also saw the courts being involved in when 12 aspiring candidates could not, were challenged in courts in Bulawayo. We also know that there is a presidential candidate, Sevia Kasukwere, who also had to fight it in the courts. So the courts have been involved from the beginning of this election, and it will not be surprising that the courts again will be involved at the end of the election, and that has happened before. We also note the presence of many observer missions. And what I attended the final rally yesterday of the CCC, and when the coterie of observers were arriving, there was a big jubilation by the people who were present at the rally. That to me spoke of at least either the confidence among the electorate that if they are international observers, then they will be able to build towards a free, fair and credible election. And also on the other hand, I think it's also a cry from those that may be lacking confidence in the process, that at least if the international observers, particularly SADC, AU, EU, and all the other agencies, if they are present, then we may see a free and fair election happening. So this has been up to yesterday. Today is an electoral, there is no campaigning officially, and the game now goes to the electorate itself, the people who are going to vote. And about 85% of the eligible are registered to vote. So tomorrow we will see the numbers, whether, and also the challenge will be ZEC doing being the manager now. It is pre-election period now over. Tomorrow is the election period, and we will wait for the post-election period. But tomorrow is already declared a national holiday, so people will have all the ample time to go and cast their votes.
Well,
so it's actually came on, and we hope that the process tomorrow will lead to another post-election process that will lead to a new, the candidates being elected and others then perhaps accepting also. Actually, that's one thing that is very important, because there seems to be so much confidence about between Mnangagwa and Chamisa that they are winning.
Well, Dr. Zambara, if you'll allow me to come in, there, media reports suggest that CCC President Nelson Chamisa stated that whatever way the election goes, he believes that CCC will have won, and if they have not won, it's because the elections have been rigged. Does this, if he did say this, does this in fact pose a challenge for peace post the announcement of the official results?
Yes, I think if you are a presidential candidate, you would want to exude a lot of confidence that you are going to win. So yes, Nelson Chamisa said he is expecting to win and will not actually accept defeat. That, to me, is a sign of confidence. And that same confidence, you will also find it on the other side. Because President Mnangagwa says we want to win resoundingly. That's also another sign of confidence. So the two of them, are they both ready to accept they lose? And that will become the scenario post the election. And the history of the country is such that our post-election period is not that palatable. Look at what happened on 1 August 2018, and also the country is still very aware of what happened in post-2008 election. That's the big call then will be to the observers, and the big call will be to ZEC. ZEC would be, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is now on the line to prove that they can handle, they can manage a free and fair election that even the winners and losers will accept as free and fair.
So let's take a look at that pathway. Once the electorate have cast their ballots tomorrow, when do we expect results to start coming in, and when can the people expect to know who's won the presidential vote?
Voting starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 7 p.m. Then counting starts. Usually, counting for the local elections, that would actually, the results will be quite fast, because those will be posted on the polling stations. So the V11 forms would actually reflect who the councillor is, and in a short time. Also, the members of parliament will be known by the next day. But the presidential polling, the polling of the presidential, the collection of the presidential vote will go to the central ZEC command central point, where they will be then collected, and we hope that within 48 hours we could have the results. Actually, any delay, considering that the previous elections, issues of that led to violence, were limited to delays in releasing the results. So if ZEC is on point, presidential results and all other results should be known within 48 hours. And we also know that if there is a possibility, which is quite high, of a runoff election, President Mnangagwa has already put the 2nd of October as the date for the presidential runoff election.
Well, you mentioned that there are a number of election observers that are in the country. Are you convinced that the election observers will have sufficient access to the booths, the voting processes, in order to oversee that this election is indeed free and fair?
So far, election observers get all the access. What has been an issue is that there seemed to have been, there was a threat that came from George Charamba, who is the spokesperson and the Deputy Secretary, Chief Secretary of President's Office and the Cabinet, in which he repeatedly warned interviewers to limit themselves to why they came. And even in our call, he sent out a warning to one EU election observer who was seen giving Nelson Chamisa her business card. And John Charamba is, you look at it as the state. The state is taking any issue with that, and actually that they are dealing with that lady. Whether she's going to be deported, we wait to see. And if she violated her code by giving Chamisa a card while he was walking on the podium, some people don't see it as a very big issue. But as an observer, you have got some parameters, and the state will actually apply its sovereign powers to possibly eject you. We also have the issue of Professor Stephen Chan, who was denied a visa on the argument that he already has made pronouncements that the election may not be free and fair. And on that regard, even in a recent interview, President Mnangagwa said, you cannot be welcome if you already have made a position and then you want to come as an observer. Otherwise, I have not heard of SADC, AU, EU election observers who have been denied access. In fact, many observer missions, including those that wrote strong or that criticized the previous election, were actually allowed to come in. And we hope that this will give some credence that the election is free and fair and there's nothing to hide.
Well, Dr. Zambara, let's move on a little bit and in fact allow us to come back to voting proper. So we have a new voter who's represented by young people that are voting for the very first time tomorrow. Now, how significant is this vote going to be, firstly? And secondly, whom do you think has more appeal to this new breed of voters, these young people between the ages of 18 and 23 that obviously didn't vote in the last election?
That's quite critical. We have about 1 million new voters. And the youth vote, not only the new voters, but generally the young people, is a vote that is influenced mainly by the economic situation. In fact, Afro Barometer survey revealed that top priority is the issue of the economy, followed by unemployment and also service delivery. And these are issues that affect the youth more. And anyone who wants to get elected has to appeal to the youth. So it was not surprising that both President Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa and any other presidential hopeful was promising to provide for the youth. And if you would go by the numbers, generally, actually historically, the younger people tend to be persuaded to go to the opposition, to Triple C. However, ZANU-PF has also made inroads into the youth using its power of incumbency and also its access to resources. It is the better resource. And it has lured a number of youthful people who are running with ZANU-PF. So we hope that this youth bout is going to come out and vote, because that has also been one of the problems we have been having, where youths have not participated at the same height or same level as the older people. So are you convinced?
Are you convinced this time around that there will be no voter apathy, at least of a significant amount, amongst the youth, particularly those first-time voters? Do you expect them to come out in their numbers?
We'll wait to see tomorrow. But every political candidate was trying to appeal to the youth to come out and vote. And even when you listen to people around in their social circumstances, the youth are actually also encouraging each other to go out and vote. However, whether that will come to fruition, let's wait for tomorrow and see if they will be patient enough to wait for many hours, especially in urban areas where queues would be snaking around. Are the youth patient enough to fight for that vote, because it is their right? And perhaps if that vote is going to unlock a future for them, whether it's the sitting president or Nelson Chamisa who gets in, let them determine. In fact, the youth should be encouraged to exercise their right to vote, because if you don't vote, others will actually vote for you.
Yeah, you're right about that. But let's also talk about a new development, and that is the COVID mandate, if you will, that's been instituted for tomorrow's voting, that everybody has to mask up when they vote. Is this going to impact the voting, do you think, firstly? And secondly, do you expect the authorities to police it to the maximum? Would they turn away voters that do not have masks tomorrow?
I think because when I was assessing yesterday, I realized that when you get into the polling station, at the first, as you enter the polling station, there's one person who will be focusing on that sanitization as well as making sure that people have masks. I think the easiest thing to be on the safe side, people should just carry their masks and accept to be sanitized, considering that they'll be using the same ballpoint pen and the like. However, my fear is that that process should not delay someone who has started to vote. That if it is done very quickly, so that we don't have seconds lost when someone is being sanitized and being redirected, those seconds will count eventually. That's where we end up having situations where at some polling stations, the queues won't be moving. In fact, we have had in the past a situation in which Harare, the province, still had long queues and they were given an extra day. So we hope that the process of sanitization and making sure that people comply with the set out COVID rules, like getting in with a mask, should not delay the voting process by many seconds per person, because many seconds per person eventually become minutes and hours.
Now, my final question, Dr. Zambara, is around a place called, formerly called UMP Uzumba Maramba Pungwe, and it was synonymous with, it's a rural area, synonymous with that final vote and tipping the scales, if you will. So my question really is around the rural vote. The rural vote in the past has predominantly been the stronghold of ZANU-PF. Has CCC in the last few months had access to the rural vote? And is the rural vote likely to remain ZANU-PF, or will it be swayed?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the rural vote is is the key determinant, because about 63% of Zimbabweans live in rural areas. That already becomes a key determinant. However, with the advent of social media and information circulation, we have seen that rural areas have been penetrated. The opposition claims that they have also penetrated the rural areas. And we saw them when they were going out in rural areas and showing that almost everywhere, including in places like Uzumba Maramba Punga. However, the issue of people being free to move around to vote, and also making sure that all the political parties contesting have got election agents at every polling station, including in the rural areas, would be very important for this voting process. Otherwise, we'll end up having a situation like some rural constituencies have got such large numbers that you would wonder how many people were voting in a minute. So we hope that this time around the game will be nearly fair, or expected to be fair for everyone, whether you are in urban areas or whether in the rural areas. Information has been flowing, and people have been, there's been a while. Last time there was some disturbance and slowness of internet, and when some people were actually saying today internet is slow. That has raised some fears that information may not be flowing in and out in the rural areas. But I think it's game on. People now know what they want anyway, and let the best candidate win, whether both in rural and urban areas. And the ball is in Zek's court. Then they will announce the winner, and the country should move on peacefully.
Dr. Zambara, wish you peaceful voting tomorrow. Dr. Webster Zambara, Senior Project Leader in the Peace Building Interventions Program, Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, speaking to us from Harare in Zimbabwe, ahead of that country's general elections, which are happening tomorrow.